A water crossing is only a water crossing if the water is the challenge. And that means it's either fast moving water where it can affect traction or direction of the bike, or if it's something long where you're not able to get a good scout on it. So if the water causes the issue, it's a water crossing. But if it's just something that's short, that's narrow, you can see the bottom, it's not actually a water crossing at that point. All it is an obstacle crossing that happens to have water on top of it. And that's just how I define a water crossing. If you think you're supposed to be sitting down, crossing water and paddling through, we don't sit down in the water, we stand up. This is where we have control, this is where we have balance. Putting your feet down just gives you less control and a lot more likely to get injured if you do fall down. When we stand up though, it's not just standing. We don't just stand up on the pegs. We need to be in an athletic position where we've got flex in the body, in your hips, in your knees, in your elbows, so that you can allow the bike to move in any direction. Now, that bike may speed up, may slow down. You can't see the bottom very well. And most definitely the idea that you're gonna get a deflection left or right, count on it. It's gonna happen. If it doesn't happen on one crossing, it's gonna happen on the next one. And you have to be relaxed enough to allow the bike to move in all directions. If you've seen people or heard the advice, when you go through water, lean back. Not necessarily. If the water is consistent, if you're in a relaxed position, if your speed is proper, then you may just be in a neutral position where your toes are in, your legs are touching, and you're balanced. And if you think you may have something you're going to deflect on, you may shift back just a little bit. But again, when you shift back, you should be locking in so that you can actually let go. You're never holding on to the handlebars. You're just relaxed up there because you're touching the throttle, because you need your clutch. Otherwise, when we stand, it's neutral and relaxed in the center of the motorcycle. It's not just about technique. And just like all the things I teach, you should have a plan. There should be a strategy that you go into. I know in a lot of videos, riders just go blasting through the water and it looks amazing and water's going over their head. But I can assure you that good technique makes bad video. Bad technique makes great video. So we're gonna make a really bad video here. Yeah. That's the plan, right? So before we get into this, let's talk about this water crossing. It's a small crossing. This is not big. It does not look challenging. But what should we be thinking about as we go into a crossing that looks like this?
Well, there may be hidden problems. There may be hidden big rocks that your bike will tumble all around. There can be sand that you sink into. There's no trees, obviously. We're in Iceland. You can read the environment around the water. If on this side, if you look at it, we got little stones and sand. Like, that's what we have. This is not mud, so I know there's not mud in it. I'm not worried about sinking. I can tell by the environment around the water. But if you look at the other side, there's bigger rocks. So on that side, there's probably going to be more rocks on the bottom. So I would probably pick this side, so which is downstream in this case. And here downstream, it's wider, so the water is distributed. There's not as much stream. Up here, it's more narrow, so there's more stream. You read these clues before you go and plan where you're gonna go. And sometimes it's good to look at others. If you're not riding with a local, look at another bike go before, look at a 4x4 going over, and you can see what it's doing. If the 4x4 is going over and it's bumping up and down, that will tell you there's rocks underneath. If it's going smoothly, there's probably just stones. If it's digging up sand, you can see the sand shoveling up from the tires. that tells you there's sand there that you might sink into.
And if it goes over the windshield?
It's too deep. So you just got to plan what you're doing.
It's really tempting to get into a water crossing, especially if it looks shallow, and to go at a higher speed. The faster you go into a water crossing, the more likely you are to swamp the bike, to get the water into the electronics, to get it up and over your helmet and impair your vision. It looks cool on video, it looks cool in pictures, but it's very poor technique. You do need enough speed that if you get a deflection in the water, if there's a rock or something underneath, that the bike can still self-correct and keep moving, but not so fast that you're overcommitted, and if you hit something hard or deep, that you're thrown down hard or that you crash. You want to be able to recover. Watch your speed.
Some of the water passes are outside of the beaten path. There's hardly any trucks going over or motorcycles, people moving. The stream is not hard, so with less movement, you have some of the rocks that are slimy. If you take a look at them or pick them up, you can see there's slime on the outside. The stones have a slippery surface to begin with, and when you add this slime on top, you have less traction. So that's something to keep in mind.
When I'm going through a water crossing, I choose to turn off my traction control only because it can be very unpredictable, and I want to know precisely how much power I have going to the ground, and I can feel what's actually happening. The traction control can sometimes hide what's happening. It can actually get you in trouble. As far as the clutch goes, that is your traction control. So I'm going to use 1 to 3 fingers on the clutch, and that's going to allow me to feather it as I go through that clutch. It's just going to be, and I'm not on and off the clutch. All I'm doing is just kind of buffering the power. So I'm feeling what's happening, which is why I need to turn off the electronics, so I can buffer that power and control every time a change happens.
I'm going on the right on this water crossing. There are flags here that are good guidance for me. They protect the vegetation so I don't go too far to the right. But on the left here I can see a fast flowing stream, and that tells me where to go. Oh.
You want to be in a gear that is low enough that you have power to get across, but not so tall that you're going to stall. So there's kind of a magic gear category as far as what gear you're going to choose. Generally speaking, you want to be on the high gear side, not the low gear side. That just means that the power, if you make mistakes or if you're feathering the clutch and you're not really precise, that you don't end up overspinning and getting yourself in a lot of trouble. So pick kind of a higher gear when you're going through these water crossings. On the right side, as far as the throttle goes, you want to have a little bit of over rev. You're running maybe 500 RPM over the normal speed. And if you get really down deep into water, you may want to pick it up to 1,000. If you get a little bit of water in the air box, you want to be able to burn it through before you actually stall the motorcycle. The clutch is going to be feathered with 1 to 3 fingers. Usually we're using 2, but definitely not 4, not in this situation. Keep those eyes up as you're going across. And when I say eyes up, I'm not talking way off into the distance. All I'm looking for is a horizon. I want a flat place where I know that I have balance. Things happen very fast when you're in the water. You can catch rocks, you can slip, and when that shift happens, you want to see it and know where that horizon is, because otherwise you'll always be behind. That's when people fall down on the motorcycles.
Every water pass is a victory in itself. Once you're over, you want to just full throttle, go, go, go. But maybe it's time to reflect. Look a little bit of what did I do? Did I do any mistakes? Did I get myself in trouble? Did I learn a lesson? It may be a good lesson. It may be something that you did perfectly, and then repeat it. Learn something for the next water pass you have to go over, or the next time you're going to be here. Even if you get into trouble, tell the other guys, hey guys, stop. There's rock, there's deep sand, don't go here. Let's check it out better. I hardly made it over. So reflect on it and see if you can get better.
When you're two up, you might end up on a water crossing too.
As a passenger, I've had to teach myself a few things. First off, you're not along for the ride, you're actually part of the ride. So one thing I've taught myself how to do is to be as close as possible and to react to all the minute movements as he does them. One way to hook in, the first water crossing you see that I've kind of hooked in his air vents. This is a little bit too high. If I can find, Revit makes a suit with a great little belt that I can push down on. Climb has these back pockets, and if I hook into it, pull my weight forward and push down, so every time I feel him moving forwards and backwards, instead of banging into him and then he's pulling back and I'm pulling him away, if I can transfer that energy, push down, then I find that I'm a lot more in tune with exactly what he's doing.
As a rider, my techniques are going to be exactly the same as riding solo. And most importantly is I can't put weight on those handlebars. And having a passenger who knows how to ride, who's also standing with you as you make the crossing, is really important and critical. If you're going to ride two up and you're going to end up doing water crossings, practice the standing together to start with. That way you don't end up here where you're off balance in a very critical situation. That also means when I'm looking at modifications for my motorcycle to make it ideal for me, I need to make modifications for the passenger as well. And the number one thing you have to get rid of is
the plastic on the back plate.
She absolutely hates those. She slips, she slides. She's wearing full-on motocross boots because in truth, she has less control of the outcome than I do. And it's just as important for her, or more important, to have that proper protection. So being able to switch out and find cleated pegs for the passenger is very, very important. And also, as she already mentioned, making sure that I have a riding suit that allows her to lock in and to push down instead of forward. That's also an important aspect.
Okay guys, when you go over the water pass, make sure you stop, take a look at it, and look for the clues and just be careful.
When we're talking about riding technique, again, summaries, stay up on those pegs. That's not just about control, it's also about safety. If the bike falls over in the water, make sure you shut that power off as soon as possible. If you suck water into the motor, then you're going to have a much more difficult time getting it up and going again. Your vision needs to be out far enough, you have a plan, and you still have a horizon. You're not looking a mile, but you're not looking at your fender. You need to make sure that you have enough horizon that if the bike starts to tip or slip, that you can see it before you can feel it. Steady on the clutch, steady on the throttle. You want those to be very smooth and don't go too fast. It's not really all that difficult. The deep water can be scary, but definitely if you have the strategy, as Johan has talked about, if you have the technique, you're going to make it clear. Now, Johan also has a reference or a website if you want to come to Iceland, and it's ADViceland.is, and there's a huge amount of resources on there. What are we going to find on that website?
Just want to make your trip easier. Bike rentals, bike parts, places to see. I have a Google map of places to see. If you need places to bathe, there's endless stuff. Just check it out, and if I don't answer questions by just you looking at it, send it to me.
Yeah, and it's an expensive country to travel in, but well worth it. And if you go to the website, a lot of the resources he has is ways to help cost control while you're here. It's a heck of a good experience. We really appreciate you guys watching the channel. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so you get new notifications when new videos come out. Leave comments below. Let us know what you think about this or the scenery. What you think we might have missed? What would you be recommending for people doing water crossings? We don't get everything. It's a short video. So please share your comments and thoughts below. And a sarcastic thank you, because I can't say the actual words. Well, I could. It is YouTube. I can get away with one. But to United for losing all of my camera gear. So this entire video was actually shot on a cell phone with a single remote mic. And it was kind of an interesting experience. I've been looking for an excuse to do this, and this was it. And that just reminds me that you always smile while you ride. Easy for me to say, because attitude matters.